The noose swung lazily in the dry wind, creaking like an omen. Dust swirled around the wooden gallows in the heart of Dustin, a nameless, sun-blasted frontier town clinging to the edge of survival. The townspeople had gathered in uneasy silence, their eyes darting between each other and the small figure standing on the platform, hands bound, head held high with trembling defiance. Her name was Clara Bell. 22, orphaned, dirt poor, and until yesterday, a laundress with no enemies, at least not the kind who mattered. Today, she was accused of a crime so grave, it had sentenced her to die. "I didn't kill him," Clara had whispered when they threw her into the wooden jail, a box with iron bars barely strong enough to hold back the heat. "I found the marshal that way. I was trying to help. But no one had listened. The marshal had been respected, even feared. Shot in the back in his own office, the town needed someone to blame. And Clara, the girl who often cleaned his blood-stained clothes, who'd once dared to tell him no, became an easy target. The mayor had insisted justice be swift. "We can't look soft," he said. "Not out here. Not with rustlers watching. No trial. No chance." The hangman adjusted the rope, coughing into his shoulder, avoiding Clara's eyes. Somewhere in the crowd, a child began to cry. Clara scanned the people, faces she'd washed clothes for, neighbors she'd shared bread with, and found no mercy. They looked away. Not because they believed she was guilty, but because fear kept them silent. She closed her eyes and prayed, not for herself, but for her little sister Mary, hidden 3 towns over with the pastor's wife, the only person Clara could trust. "Please," she whispered, "let her be safe." And just as the hangman placed the burlap sack over Clara's head, the silence broke with a single, chilling sound. A horse's hooves, slow, deliberate, clopped on the dusty street. The kind of sound that carried weight, that made men pause mid-sentence and women clutch their children close. The sheriff turned. "Who the hell?" Out of the heat shimmer came a rider cloaked in black, his wide-brimmed hat pulled low, a rifle slung behind his saddle and 2 revolvers at his side. His coat, long and frayed, fluttered as he stopped in front of the gallows. Dust settled around him like a fog. No one recognized him. But everyone could feel it, this man was dangerous. And yet, something in his posture, something in the way he looked up at Clara, radiated calm. Purpose. He dismounted, tied his horse, and walked through the crowd like Moses through the Red Sea. No one dared stop him. "I'll be talking my wife now," he said, voice low but loud enough to cut the tension like a knife. The hangman froze. The mayor stepped forward, blustering. "What nonsense is this?" "She's my wife," the stranger repeated. "Clara Bell. Been waitin' 6 months for her to come back to me." A murmur ran through the crowd like wildfire. Clara's breath caught. She couldn't see him clearly through the sack, but the voice, it stirred something. Something familiar. The mayor narrowed his eyes. "She's been in this town 2 years. She's got no husband. And we have laws." "She's my wife," the man said again, slower this time. "And unless you want me to start airing out your courthouse with bullets, I suggest you show me the paper that says otherwise." The sheriff's hand twitched near his belt. The stranger didn't flinch. Clara couldn't take it anymore. "Who are you?" she whispered from beneath the hood. The man took a step forward and lifted the sack. Their eyes met. And her heart stopped. It had been 4 years. 4 years since the day a young outlaw collapsed outside her father's burned-down barn, bleeding from a bullet wound and barely conscious. She'd hidden him, nursed him, and sent him on his way before the law caught wind. He'd told her his name was Elijah. And that he was no good for her. But he had been kind. He'd held her hand and said, "If ever you need me, really need me, look to the western horizon and pray at dusk. I'll find you." She never believed it. Until now. "Elijah," she breathed. He nodded, the ghost of a smile flickering. Told you I'd come. The mayor scoffed. This is madness. She's been sentenced. She's a murderer. Then prove it, Elijah said coolly. Or let her go. And for a second, silence reigned again. The kind that can crush a soul. And then Clara, still bound, still standing over her own death, did something unexpected. She told the truth. In front of everyone, her voice trembling but fierce, she laid bare everything, how she'd found the marshal already dying, how she tried to help, how he grabbed her wrist and whispered, "Tell Mary, tell her I'm sorry." But no one had asked her what that meant. No one cared to know about Mary. The marshal's secret daughter from a long-forgotten affair, whom he never acknowledged. Check his office drawer, she said, eyes burning. Top left. There's a locket. His daughter's picture's inside. The mayor hesitated. But something had changed. The crowd was listening now. The sheriff sent a deputy running. Minutes passed like hours. When the deputy returned, pale and breathless, holding the locket in his hand, all it took was one look. The resemblance was undeniable. The girl in the picture could have been Clara's sister. The crowd gasped. She was telling the truth, someone whispered. She tried to save him. The mayor's face paled. He tried to speak, but no words came. Elijah stepped forward, drew a knife from his belt, and cut Clara's bindings. She fell into his arms, and for the first time in days, she wept. Not because she was free, but because someone believed her. Clara didn't leave Dustin that night. She stayed just long enough to speak her piece. People apologized. Some brought bread. Others couldn't meet her eyes. But Clara, with Elijah's hand holding hers, simply smiled and said, "Fear makes people do strange things. I forgive you." They rode west the next morning, under a sky streaked with gold. Elijah told her stories, of the towns he'd seen, the peace he'd found in helping those no one else would. He wasn't a gunslinger anymore, not truly. He was a protector. A quiet storm in a broken land. And Clara, though scarred, was stronger than ever. She reunited with Mary, told her the truth, and together they began again. They settled in a small valley town far from Dustin. Clara taught children to read. Elijah worked the land. And every Sunday, they left the church hand in hand, hearts full. Years later, when a stranger wandered into town and asked if the tale was true, if a woman really stood on the gallows and was saved by a gunslinger who called her his wife, Clara simply smiled. "He wasn't just my husband," she said. "He was the man who saw me when no one else did. He reminded the world what mercy looks like." And the stranger nodded, heart stirred. Because in a world quick to judge and quicker to punish, stories like Clara's remind us that sometimes, salvation rides in on a horse, calls you by name, and dares the world to do better.